Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good morning or good afternoon, whatever you want to say. It's 12 p.m., or I should say 12:01 p.m. This is Talking Politics on Parrot TV. I am Robert Press, your host and official political reporter for Parrot TV, the Bronx Chronicle, Co-op City News, and Parkchester Times. And this is a Good Friday because it is for all who observe it a Good Friday that they are in church observing this day, while it is also Passover for those of the Jewish faith. Now, yesterday we had almost 80 degrees, but today it's about 20 degrees cooler. Tomorrow and Sunday over the weekend, it should be back up to almost close to 80. So many of you may go to our wonderful beach there, which is the Bronx Riviera, fashioned after the French Riviera, Orchard Beach. But remember one thing, when you go into the water is going to be cold because the water is still cold from the winter. What can I say about Donald Trump? Donald Trump has been the main piece of the news the past couple of days, ever since he flew into Manhattan to spend 1 hour in court with Alvin Bragg to be charged with 34 counts of false documentation, among other things. After 1 hour in court, he got out, got into his motorcade. I was watching TV. They were following the motorcade with their helicopter as he went to the airport, got on his plane, Trump, with Trump all over the name, and then flew off. They even had pictures of him flying away. They were watching him fly up in the air. And then later that night, former President Trump, at about a little under 8:30, spoke to the nation. He said that even hardcore Democrats agree that these charges should not have been brought. Channel 2 even had, WCBS TV had Cy Vance on there, the former Manhattan DA, who said, no, I didn't bring those charges because there wasn't enough evidence. He didn't even know what new evidence Alvin Bragg had. And it appears that Congress is subpoenaing the assistant district attorney that found this new evidence. And well, now Alvin Bragg said, well, no one's above the law. Everybody has to be subpoenaed. They have to show up. So let's see if this Pomerantz guy, who supposedly found this new evidence, testifies before court. But let's continue on what former President Trump said. He said that President Biden left $85 million in military equipment and a number of lost lives in the withdrawal from Afghanistan. He mentioned that crime is up under President Biden in major cities around the country. He also said he defeated ISIS in 4 weeks when it was said it would take 4 years. He mentioned that the DA in Georgia probably will be doing the same thing that the Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg did. It's something over a phone call that was perfectly honest and heard by others, Trump said. And he said the justice system has come up with a new way to barge into his home to take items, including his passport and medical records. He also mentioned that this is probably only going to be the first New York indictment of him. He is waiting for New York State Attorney General Letitia James to indict him. Now, I'm going to read from the press release of the 34-count indictment by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, Jr. announced the indictment of Donald Trump, 76, for falsifying New York business records in order to conceal damaging information and unlawful activity from American voters before and after the 2016 election. During the election, Trump and others employed a catch-and-kill scheme to identify, purchase, and bury negative information about him and boost his electoral prospects. Trump then went to great lengths to hide this conduct, causing dozens of false entries in business records to conceal criminal activity, including attempts to violate state and federal election laws. Trump is charged in New York State Supreme Court, in a New York State Supreme Court indictment with 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. The people of the state of New York allege that Donald J. Trump repeatedly and fraudulently furnished falsified New York business records to conceal crimes that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election, said D.A. Bragg. Manhattan is home to the country's most significant business market. We cannot allow New York businesses to manipulate their records to cover up criminal conduct. As the statement of facts describes, the trial of money and lies expose a pattern that the people allege violates one of New York's basic and fundamental business laws. As this office has done time and time again, we today uphold our solemn responsibility to ensure that everyone stands equal before the law. According to court documents and statements made on the record in court from August 2015 to December 2017, Trump orchestrated his catch and kill scheme through a series of payments that he concealed through months of false business entries. In one instance, American Media, in parentheses AMI, paid $30,000 to a former Trump Tower doorman who claimed to have a story about a child Trump had out of wedlock. In a second instance, AMI paid $150,000 to a woman who alleged she had a sexual relationship with Trump, when Trump explicitly directed a lawyer who then worked for the Trump Organization, Trump's special counsel, to reimburse AMI in cash. The special counsel indicated to Trump that the payments should be made by a shell company and not by cash. AMI ultimately declined to accept reimbursement after consulting their counsel. AMI, which later admitted its conduct was unlawful in agreement with federal prosecutors, made false entries in business records concerning the true purpose of the $150,000 payment. In a third instance, 12 days before the presidential general election, the special counsel wired $130,000 to an attorney for an adult film actress. The special counsel, who has since pleaded guilty and served time in prison for making the illegal campaign contribution, made the payment through a shell corporation funneled through a bank in Manhattan. After winning the election, Trump reimbursed the special counsel through a series of monthly checks, first from the Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust, created in New York to hold the Trump Organization's assets during Trump's presidency, and later from Trump's bank account. In total, 11 checks were issued for a phony purpose. 9 of those checks were signed by Trump. Each check was processed by the Trump Organization and illegally disguised as a payment for legal services rendered pursuant to a non-existent retainer agreement. In total, 34 false entries were made, New York business records, to conceal the initial convert $130,000 payment. Further, the participants in the scheme took steps that mischaracterized for tax purposes the true nature of the reimbursements. Assistant DAs Catherine McCaw, Catherine Ellis, Rebecca, and it goes on to name these people who worked on this. All right, defendant Donald Trump of Palm Beach, Florida, charges falsifying business records in the first degree, a Class C felony, 34 counts, with a note that the charges contained in this indictment are merely allegations and the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty. All factual recreations are derived from documents filed in court and statements made on the record in court. Now, Donald Trump is due back, or his attorney will be back in June or July to answer these charges, and then the case will begin supposedly in January of next year. Now, what has happened with Donald Trump on this? In the one day of this trial, Donald Trump has gotten $1.3 million on his plane ride home in contributions. This is going to be a moneymaker for Donald Trump in his reelection bid. And it's going to be a fun story to watch, okay? Almost as fun as some of our local stories. For instance, our late budget. This is really disgusting because the governor wants to change the no cash bail law, which I'll read something later on from District Attorney Darcel Clark here in the Bronx. All right. She wants to make it more, make judges more able to hold people in jail. And what I'll read will be a murderer who was back out on the streets, or an alleged murderer, I should say. Meanwhile, the state assembly and the state senate are objecting to any changes to the no cash bail law. They want to leave criminals out in the street. Right now, there are almost 6,000 people being held in Rikers Island. 84% are pretrial detainees, and 16% are people waiting to go to prison. And the other thing the governor has proposed is 800,000 units of housing, and how she plans to do it. However, she now is getting feedback from outside the city. It's not the city people, but the suburban legislators who are against it. For instance, in Bronxville, a very exclusive community, they are against any proposed affordable housing. And they don't care how much money the governor wants to pay them to have it. They don't want it, period. There are other minor issues involved that other state senators or assembly members are trying to get in the budget. And we'll see what happens and how long New York State goes without a budget, since they have extended the budget for 10 days to April 10th so that our legislators could come home from Albany to enjoy their either Easter or Passover holidays. As a matter of fact, our local assemblyman in the 80th Assembly District was at the Bronx Jewish Center for their Passover Seder on Wednesday night, as well as the Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson, Bronx District Attorney, Darcel Clark, and even Councilwoman Marjorie Velazquez made an appearance. Going on to some of the other things that, let me take a break here right now and stop for a commercial and get into more after our commercial.
Do you wish your business makes it to the top list of the most searched for business in the US and around the world? Or are you searching for halal compliant services and products online? Then Halal Finder is your online resource directory, pointing you to the right places and products. Let's help you explore halal products and services of your choice as we manage many halal businesses across the world. Promote your business with halalfinder.com, the only plug you need to grow. Our services include business listing, digital marketing, branding strategy, SEO campaigns, crowdfunding, and humanitarian support. On our Compassion Corner, we offer crowdfunding of halal ventures and humanitarian services. In this section, you can make or receive donations, start donation campaign, and check existing donation campaigns. And by paying zakat and sadaqah to our Compassion platform on halalfinder.com, you have supported the poor, widows or widowers, orphans, and the likes around the world. Contact us at info@halalfinder.com or call +1 718 822 5555. Get started today at halalfinder.com.
Okay, welcome back. So let's get into the local issue a little. It appears that Mayor Adams has told city agencies he wants to cut the budget by 4%. And he has made a new contract with the police department, which gives them 25% increase over 8 years. And this goes back to 2017 when, since then, they've been working without a contract. Our dedicated police officers, and I'll get into crime figures in a moment, but I want to mention that a Brooklyn Assemblywoman Latrice Walker visited Rikers Island, supposedly with other officials, but no one was mentioned, to see how those detained or convicted who are and awaiting movement to a prison are being cared for. She said she will go on a hunger strike like she did last year for 19 days when Governor Hochul mentioned bail reform. Well, now you can see how people who are observing Ramadan feel, Assemblywoman Walker. But the Assemblywoman was the lead sponsor of the 2019 bail reform law, she said at a press conference in the Assembly. This is what I will submit to speak on behalf of those people who are not criminals, but who have been accused and charged with a crime and are waiting for their day in court, she said. Now, my question is, why isn't Assemblywoman Latrice Walker not demanding from Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie that those detained in Rikers Island get their day in court? Let him bring more judges. Let him have these people get their day in court, Assemblywoman Walker. Why are you just going on a hunger strike and not speaking to your speaker, Carl Hastie? Okay, now, on to police figures. The stats were released for the up to March 2023. They were crowing about the decrease in crime, how crime has gone down. Murders are down for year to date from 2022. We're down 4 murders or 11%. Rapes, there's 1 rape less. Now, I know it's not a laughing matter, but for them to crow about that. Robberies are down 18. However, felonious assault is up 39 or 2%. Burglary is down 170 or 12.5%. Here's something that they said in March of 2023, there were from the beginning of the year, there were 4,129 grand larcenies. In March of 22, up to date, there were 4,113, which is an increase of 16, but they show a negative 0.4%. Grand larceny auto, meaning car theft, is up 147 or 14.3%. And then the total number of crimes they have at 10,008 for year to date March 2023 compared to March 2022, they have 9,999, which is an increase of 9, yet they show a decrease of 0.1%. Another error is on additional statistics for March, where in transit they show 213 crimes to date for 2023, whereas it was 187 in 2022, which is an addition of 26 crimes, but yet they show a negative or a drop of 13.9%. In housing, crimes were up. They were 513 compared to 461, an increase of 52 or 11.3%. But however, citywide shooting incidents have dropped to 85 for year to date, March 23, compared to 115 in March of 2022, or a 30% drop, which equals 26.1%. Now, all of these are preliminary statistics and are subject to change. And when I asked former Commissioner Dermot Shea last year at a press conference, I asked him how much crime goes unreported. He said, well, we can't gauge how much crime goes unreported, but we know that much crime goes unreported. And then Mayor Bill de Blasio turned to him and probably said to him, what the hell are you saying that for? We don't want people to know that there's unreported crime. However, though, when they say the murder rate is down, murders in the 48th precinct in the Bronx, according to CompStat reports, the week of 3/27/23 to 4/2/23, for the week, there was 1 murder compared to 0 in 2022 for the same period. On the 28-day period, there were 4 murders compared to 1 in 2022. And year to date in the 48th precinct, 8 murders have occurred compared to 5 in 2022. So where did the murder rate go down? And police from other Bronx precincts are being called into the 48th precinct to help out. Now, I go over these New York Police Department CompStat reports. I grew up in Far Rockaway, and we had the 101st precinct and as you can see, I am no youngster, so I am not going to give you my age, but it was when I was a child, crime started to increase in the Far Rockaway area. A second police precinct was added, the 100th precinct for Rockaway Park. And those precincts were pretty busy back in the 80s and 90s. However, let me read you the latest report from these 2 precincts. The 100th precinct in Rockaway Park, week ending 3/27/23 to 4/2/23, 7 total crimes. And that's no change from 2022. The 28-day period, 21 crimes versus 28 in 2022, a 25% drop. Year to date, 89 crimes versus 89 crimes in 2022. No change. With 92 days so far up to April 2nd, that's less than 1 crime per day in that precinct. Excuse me for a moment. Thank you. I wonder how many officers are in that precinct. Now, the 101st precinct in Far Rockaway, week ending 3/27 to 4/23, there were 15 crimes versus 10 in 2022, which is an increase of 50%. The 28-day period shows 54 crimes versus 46 in 2022, or an 18% increase. Year-to-date, 169 crimes versus 157 in 2022, or a 7.5 increase. Together, there are 22 crimes for the week ending 3/27/23 versus 4/2/23. For the 28 period in the two precincts, there are 75 crimes, and year-to-date, there are 258 crimes. Now, let's look at the safest precinct in the Bronx, the 50th precinct, which is the Northwest Bronx, which is also called the Hawaii 5-0 precinct, because there is so little crime there in the Bronx. Week ending 3/27/23 to 4/2/23, there were 36 crimes versus 41 in 2022, down 12%. The 28-day period had 124 crimes versus the same as in 2022, a 0% gain or loss. Year-to-date, 368 crimes versus 366 in 2022, or a 2% increase. Now let's look at the 43rd precinct, the most active precinct in the Bronx. 3/27 to 4/2/23, 57 crimes versus 71 in 2022, a 20% drop. For the 28-day period, there were 228 crimes versus 266 in 2022, a drop of 14%. However, the year-to-date, from January 1st to April 2nd, there were 831 crimes versus 819 in 2022, or a 1.5% increase. Now, I wish that the mayor would be at these crime briefings as Mayor Bill de Blasio was, because I would say to Mayor Adams that you need to look at some of these Queens and even Bronx precincts where there are little, number of crimes are in the teens. There are Brooklyn precincts with 15 crimes a week or less. All right. You need to look at these precincts, maybe merge some of the precincts in Brooklyn and Queens, and maybe you need to have more police precincts in the Bronx, because the crime figures don't add up. All right. You have precincts with very little crime or no crime, actually, and you have precincts in the Bronx that are very high in crime. As I said before, I'm going to read from District Attorney Darcel Clark of a Bronx man indicted for killing the 15-year-old stepson. So let me read. It says, here's the press release. Defendant allegedly compressed boy's neck until he lost consciousness. Bronx District Attorney Darcel Clark today announced that a Bronx man has been indicted for manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide in the death of his 15-year-old stepson. District Attorney Clark said the defendant allegedly got into a dispute with his stepson and restrained him by grabbing his neck, causing a lack of oxygen, which led to the boy's death. It is horrific that his life was taken at such a young age. District Attorney Clark said the defendant, Tyrese Minter, was arraigned today, meaning the day that it happened, on second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide before Bronx Supreme Court Justice Natia Samaj Williams. The people asked for remand, but the defendant was released and is due back in court on June 20th, 23. This is a murderer, a man who is, or I should say an accused murderer who is back out on the street. Now, let me read further. According to the investigation on January 23rd, 2023, the defendant was released from prison a month earlier and was on parole. Allegedly got into a dispute with the 15-year-old stepson, Cordell Scott, in their home on Doris Street in the Parkchester area. Minter allegedly put Cordell in a neck hold to restrain him, causing his neck to become compressed and cut off his oxygen supply. The defendant then allegedly lapped his legs around the boy to secure him. The boy lost consciousness. He died at the scene. The defendant did not call 911 to report the victim's death until approximately 20 minutes after the restraint. District Attorney Clark thanked Robert Cintron of the Bronx Homicide Task Force, as well as Detectives Paula Aguilera, and Arim Cruz Shepard of the 45th Precinct Detective Squad for their assistance in the case. And she also thanked Brenda Guzman of Safe Horizons for her support. And an indictment is only an accusatory instrument and not proof of the defendant's guilt. But here is a man who was 1 month out of prison. He was released on parole and killed his stepson, or allegedly killed his stepson, I should say. And he was just released back, and he's due in court on June 20th. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul said that she's investigating and is asking that the parole board bring him back in because he violated his parole by this crime, this alleged crime. Well, time is running out, but I do want to tell you one thing. If you're going to Marshall Loop Parkway for the Bronx Week food and Bronx Week parade, food festival and concert, it won't be there. This year, for the first year, the Bronx Day Food Festival will take place on 161st Street in the Grand Concourse. So if the food festival is going to be there from 12 to 6, that means that the parade will be somewhere there, probably going down the concourse. And the music concert will probably be in the same area as the food festival. Now, why is that they're not using Marshall Loop Parkway anymore? My good friend Kevin Diola and his other people at Transportation Alternatives have made a bike lane on Marshall Loop Parkway that will now prohibit the parade from happening, because that bike lane has taken 2 lanes out of Marshall Loop Parkway and is now down to a 2-lane road. And you can't have the food festival because the little things sticking up for the bike lane, the barriers, will prevent people from going across with their wagons or whatever. So you can't have the food festival, the parade, and there's no place for the concert with the bike lane. It would have to be in the middle of the street, Bainbridge Avenue. So the borough president has decided to have the Bronx Week parade, probably we know the food festival and concert at 161st Street outside the Bronx Courthouse. It may not be a bad idea, but for years the tradition has been to have it on Marshall Loop Parkway. But now with these bike lanes, it can't happen. So thank you, Kevin Diola, for those people up in Marshall Loop Parkway are going to be very happy with what you and Transportation Alternatives have done to Marshall Loop Parkway. As it is, the lights are in sequence. I've traveled the road several times. Right now, the lights are in sequence. But once the lights go out of sequence, that is going to be a traffic jam. I'm going to close the show right now that the petitioning is due. They were due to end on Thursday, April 6th, handing in of petitions for City Council and Bronx District Attorney. The Board of Elections has extended it to today from 9 to 5, and then Monday from 9 a.m. to midnight, which will be the last day to hand in your petitions. It has also moved the calendar back a little about challenging petitions and filing general objections. But if you still want to run for city council, you have until Monday to get your petitions in. And I will close with that and thank you for watching and say goodbye to my loyal viewers, including you, Kevin Diola. And I'm sorry I had to go after you in Transportation Alternatives. But Marshall Loop Parkway used to be the place where the Bronx Day Parade, Food Festival, and concert was, and it's not going to be anymore. Thank you for viewing.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you.